Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so thrilled to have back on the show an incredible singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, AJ Croce. Thanks for coming on the show, AJ.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You know, it seems like it was just yesterday, and we were talking before we came in studio. It's been a few years since you were here on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you've got bigger and better stuff going now. Croce Plays Croce.
Yes.
Which is an incredible, tour that you've been doing with an all-star band.
Yeah.
And I think what's so cool, you got to talk about this, to where not only are you covering your dad's songs, doing them justice, Jim Croce, but also putting in some of your own songs.
A few of my own, a few of the things that connect us, the songs that we both loved. I grew up listening to his record collection, and so there was so much in there to draw from that inspired me to want to play music. As much as he was an inspiration as a storyteller, it was the music that he collected that made me want to play. So Ray Charles was my gateway drug, but Fats Waller and Bessie Smith and all of the rock and roll stuff from the 50s, like Little Richard and the New Orleans stuff, and then soul singers like Sam Cooke and Otis Redding and Solomon Burke and on and on. And that's how it kind of started. So I felt like it was important to include all of it in the show.
Well, and like you and I were talking too, certainly knowing you as a fixture here in Nashville, and originally out of San Diego, it's like, I don't think anybody else could do it, AJ. And I know, certainly piano being your main instrument, but also a guitarist as well. Yeah. And, 50th anniversary. 50th anniversary tour this year. I mean, huge write-up in People magazine. I mean, what does that feel like to carry on this tradition? And also this concert too, this tour, is not only the incredible music of your dad's and yours, but it's also like a full visual experience. Yeah,
it is. The video montage that's going on and video collage behind us as we're performing is really beautiful. And there's family stuff, but then all of these really beautifully created montages that Jim Shea developed and created.
And an icon, Jim Shea.
Yeah. So great photographer, director, producer. He's wonderful. And so it was just kind of this kind of magic moment to put all this stuff together, and it worked out at the right time.
Well, it was so interesting to me too, because back the first time you and I met here in Nashville, to where it's like, at that time, you really weren't comfortable playing your dad's music, you know what I mean? Because, and I get it. Yeah. Because you have your own music. I mean, you've got, your own solo albums, which have done very well. You have toured with B.B. King, Willie Nelson, Ray Charles, the list goes on and on. Besides your national film, placement of songs, which is pretty amazing, with Django and everything else. I mean, X-Men. But I mean, when did it feel okay to you, AJ, to go out and do Croce Plays Croce?
It was an organic thing. It developed. First of all, when I was young, I didn't feel like there was any integrity in just playing my dad's stuff. Right. Plus, I was pushing to do something a little different. I wasn't looking to be famous. I was looking to be a great musician. Right. That was my focus. And as a piano player, I was pushing myself to play the most complicated stride pieces. James P. Johnson and Jelly Roll Morton, all these things besides the other later stuff that I love. Right. And so for me, I had to follow my path, Certainly. And then I was listening to this recording of my father's. I was archiving some of his music about 20 years ago, and I heard this tape where he was covering all these old 20s and 30s obscure songs. Right. Fats Waller, Pink Anderson, all of this John Hurt stuff, but not the famous stuff, And these are obscure artists for most people, and this was the B-sides of those 78s. Totally. And they were the exact songs that I had performed since I was a teenager, and I realized we had this musical connection, which is how this show kind of came about. And then 10 years ago, I was put on a little show for the fun of it, of what would have been his 11 years ago, 70th birthday. Right. And played a bunch of his songs with friends and just had a great time, and the audience loved it so much. But I couldn't imagine just playing a night of just his music, because it wouldn't feel natural to me. And I'm not really a cover band, and not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just not who I am. And so I'm not a sound alike. And so it was, I had to find a way to tell this story, and in 2019 it started, and it's just kind of developed. And now with the band and the singers and everyone that's involved, the crew that's so amazing to help make this happen each night, it's exciting. I mean,
well, and it seems to me too, AJ, knowing you, and certainly we have a lot of mutual friends here in the Nashville area, but it seems like also it's been a creative catalyst for your solo work. Because
Absolutely.
I mean, you're working on your new album that's going to be coming out this year. I've enjoyed all your past albums.
Thank you.
Just the musicality and the nods, and you and I have a lot of the same influences. We were talking too, even with the Croce Plays Croce. You know, you're throwing in a Sam Cooke song every night.
Of course, my dad did.
Right.
You know, I have to do it. And then also the other, obviously we're going to be playing the hits. You know, people come to see the hits. But more than that, I open up the request lines every night. So every show is different, and so what the audience shouts out for me to play is really unique. And you know, of course, I get Freebird every night, but you know, it's kind of a crazy thing. You know, like someone will request, you know, the deep cuts that they really love and that mean something to them, whether it's his or mine or someone else's, and I love it. You know,
which is also interesting because, you know, some people may not know your dad was a DJ.
Yes.
And so you're kind of playing DJ on stage.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's very much the same. And you know, he was such a fan of all different types of music.
Right.
You know, so I mean, he had all kinds of. It was every genre was in there in his collection.
Well, and we got to bring this up too, to where, you know, there's going to be a documentary coming out this next year even about you and your musical journey. And we were talking, and I always find it so interesting, AJ, to where, you know, Mae Axton kind of discovered you.
In a lot of ways,
and brought you to Nashville.
She did. She did. She heard me play when I was 17, and she called up Cowboy Jack Clement and said, "You got to hire this kid." And that was my very first recording session, playing piano for a Cowboy.
Here in Nashville.
Here in Nashville, at his studio in, you know, Belmont, and so it was an awakening for me at that age to realize, okay, I can do this. You know, this is for real.
Right.
I was already playing. I was making a living doing it at that age, but it was, you know, a year later, I wasn't really sure where things were going, and I get a call. B.B. King heard me play, and that was it. And that was all I needed. But the combination of the encouragement that I was given from Cowboy and Mae, of course, but also so many other people along the way.
Well, you know, and I've got to bring this up because I would be remiss if I didn't, but you've got, you know, besides your all-star band that you have backing you up on Croce Plays Croce, you also, you know, have a few instrument endorsements. Yeah. Like with everybody.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we were talking about, you know, the incredible guitars you're taking out on the road.
Yeah,
you know,
mostly vintage,
You know, and working with Tom Murphy.
Yeah.
You know, with Gibson.
Yeah.
So, you know, you've got Gibson, you've got Fender amps, you've got Martin, you've got Yamaha.
Yeah, Yamaha pianos, vintage vibe keys.
Vintage vibe, I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
It's like going, it's like you're working with everybody.
Yeah, they've been very generous, and it helps me a lot. You know, most of the instruments are vintage. You know, that I'm bringing out. Just the one, you know, 57 reissue. Tom helped so much with the neck on it, and it is so great.
Well, doesn't everybody need a gold top to take out?
Don't you?
Really?
I mean,
you know, between that and your Gibson 330, you know,
the 330 is so. That's my baby. You know. Yeah, it's funny. That was my first electric guitar, and it's still the one, you know. It just sounds
and also
so
with
good.
the Fender amps and everything too that you're doing, you know, between the, you know, the Champ and the Deluxe and all that. I mean, you know, it's like you need a separate truck just for gear and your piano and keyboards. Right?
Yeah, it's coming behind. It comes behind the bus. Yeah,
that's a good place to be though when you can do that.
It's been really great, and you know, this is such a roller coaster of a business. Right. You know, people dig you one minute, and then the next year they don't care about you.
But it seems like also, AJ, you've really carved out your own niche. You know what I mean? You've been able to do your own albums with a lot of success. And tour with them and make the music you want. And, you know, a lot of artists don't get that ability. You know, a lot of times
takes,
the labels dictate,
Yep.
and they don't get to follow their musical muse, and you've gotten to.
Yeah, I mean, I was really stubborn, and I probably could have done a lot better had I followed the direction of different A&R people.
Right.
But I wouldn't be who I am,
No.
you know. And so while it was really hard at different points in my career to get hired and to play the way I wanted to, it seems like it's paid off. I don't know.
I think it has. And I got to bring this up too, to where, and you're going to be playing, you know, besides, you know, the Croce Plays Croce tour, you are going to be bringing this to the Ryman Auditorium on
Yeah.
March 29th.
Yeah, I can't wait. I've only played there once, and it is like, they say it's, you know, church.
The Mother Church.
Yeah, it is. It really is. The sound is so beautiful. It is so beautiful, and I really am looking forward to it.
But I got to tell you also,
Yeah.
AJ, it's so impressive because wherever you've taken this show over the past year and this year, you know, doing the spring, you know, series of concerts, and then also the fall, they sell out.
Yeah.
And, you know, and the reviews and everybody, you know, even critics, which is not easy, everybody's been raving about, you know, the job that you and your band do with, you know, the justice of this music.
I think it's different than people expect. You know, we're celebrating the legacy of my father's
Right.
catalog, but it's really also the legacy of a father and a son who are, you know, a little outside the box in a way. And I think that because of that, people get a better sense of who he is through me
Right.
than they really knew before, because his career was only 18 months.
Right.
And so, you know, all of those songs written, recorded, and toured in 18 months. So when you have all of that, you know, in such a short period of time, I think there's a lot to unpack.
Right.
And where it all came from, because it wasn't an overnight success.
No,
you know,
not at all.
it took him a decade before he got to that place. You know, so it was. It's kind of an interesting, unusual show, and I think because it's different than critics think it's going to be, and
Right.
a lot more energetic than
Yeah.
people think, and because the band is so great, I think it stands up for itself. You
I
know?
think it definitely does, because I mean, it's one of those things to where everybody enjoys it, you know, and also your own originals too. I'm so glad that you add some of those in, because there's so much texture and depth, and you and I have a lot of the same influences and some of the artists that a lot of people just don't listen to.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's what we grew up on, because of our dad's vinyls.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, the records. And so I got to bring this up too, to where the triple album and CD came out last year.
Yeah, last fall, first time to see all of that, all of the 3 albums on vinyl since the advent of CDs, and so I was so happy. You know, first time in 40 years for
Right.
this stuff to be on vinyl and available together. You know, there's been probably 380 different compilations of my dad's stuff,
Right.
and not the originals until the last couple years. And now with the individual LPs, I couldn't be happier.
That's amazing. And it's got to be, I got to bring this up too, AJ, to where when you're on stage and you're performing your dad's songs and your songs, when you see these videos and stills, it has to be strange to you. And also with your mom, who also a great songwriter in her own right, to where, you know, that's you. It's almost like sharing your family story.
It is,
And your
yeah.
family music
Yeah.
with a sold out crowd.
It's a gift, man. It really is a gift. And I don't know that I ever could have expected it to be the way it is. I think part of shying away from performing my father's music was that I was nervous of the comparisons, because no one's going to perform an artist's music the way they perform
Right.
it. But what has happened is I think people appreciate not just the way that I perform it, but the fact that when they come away from it, they come away as fans of both my father's and mine.
Right.
And I never expected that. I sincerely, and I know it may seem naive, but it was something I never could have imagined. And so what I think I see happening now is that I couldn't play a show of my own without putting something of his in, because it's so much a part of what makes the show fun for me.
Right.
That it's, things change. You get older, you know, and you take chances on things that you didn't think you would ever take chances on. And I think,
Right.
That's the beauty of life.
I'm telling you, well, and I think you just keep getting better with your music and everything. And AJ, I want to make sure, you know, for the Croce Plays Croce and also for the new album, the documentary, coverage in People magazine, all this great stuff going on. AJ, where do viewers need to go for your website and social media and everything?
So ajcrocemusic.com, and they can go to at AJ Croce on Instagram or AJ Croce on Facebook, and you can find me all over the place.
Well, and I'll tell you what, be on the lookout for the new album coming out probably later in the spring, but also go see AJ play live. Croce Plays Croce. AJ, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, man.
You just keep getting better. I can't wait to see this live.
Thank you. I can't wait for you to see it.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.